Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Yes, if you couldn't already tell, that video was special effects, not real. Here we have an awesome video from Caius EV on Waymo versus Tesla. So Waymo has an expanded area in Arizona now, but freeways are still not available. This trip goes from the Phoenix Art Museum to the Chandler Museum, which is a 21.2 mile trip. Tesla takes highways when available, and Waymo still doesn't do highways. FSD, of course, does not have any boundaries, so it can go outside of the pre-fenced or mapped area where Waymo can only operate. And for Tesla, it was on FSD version 11.3.6. The Tesla did actually go 55 miles an hour for a big stretch on the highway. 55 was the posted limit, and it of course was consistently being passed, so the Tesla time could have been even better. And yes, there were 0 interventions for Tesla in this trip. Waymo did also go through a parking lot at one point. Waymo was halfway done with the trip when the Tesla actually arrived. The total trip took Tesla 26 minutes and 27 seconds, and it took Waymo 54 minutes and 42 seconds. The Waymo ride cost $43.45. So if Tesla were to do this 50-50 split that Elon just mentioned when it comes to autonomous revenue, let's do some math. Tesla's FSD has driven over 200 million miles since inception. That works out to about 9.4 million of this trip we're watching now. Multiply that by the $43.50 for each trip, that would be $410.3 million in revenue. Then if Tesla gets half, that would be about $205 million. And yes, this extrapolation falls apart considering things like Tesla rides being much cheaper without things like LiDAR, HD maps that need constant updates, the radars, etc. that Waymo still uses. And I believe Waymo also uses remote operators to correct routes when needed. But still, a great overall video from Caius EV and a cool comparison that, in my opinion, definitely highlights the many advantages Tesla has right now. Troy is doing an interesting poll, and so far it has over 11,000 votes, and keep in mind many of these will be Tesla fans to some degree, but 43% of those respondents are saying they expect Tesla to have driverless FSD, meaning robotaxis no driver, in 1 to 2 years. But overall, we have almost 75% of respondents saying they expect this to happen in the next 1 to 4 years. So where would you fall on this poll? On Twitter, Elon said Cybertruck option packages and third-party add-ons will be fire, which yes is exciting, but I think more importantly, the Cybertruck option packages that are coming from Tesla in-house, their design studio for Cybertruck accessories, this could help them boost the margins on Cybertruck. Ordinarily, that's where a lot of pickup companies and other auto companies have actually made more margin. It's actually on the accessories, not the vehicle itself. Almost like traditional dealers making money on service, not the actual sale of the car. So in a scenario where it sounds like Tesla is struggling a bit to drive down the cost of the Cybertruck, this is definitely not something that should go overlooked. We already talked about the Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive showing up in inventory in some European countries. Just wanted to pass along that now Germany is now officially on that list if you're looking. Here we get some official data from the ACEA, and Tesla is now seemingly reporting to this agency. So if you look at these columns over here, this is year-to-date data for January through April for the entire European Union. Scrolling down, finding Tesla, we can see Tesla is up 112% for that time period, January through April in 2023 compared to 2022, taking its market share during that time last year, which was 1.3 up to 2.3% now. The only other company on this entire list that grew at a higher percentage rate during January to April was Alfa Romeo, and they of course were coming from a much lower base. The biggest loser in the EU so far this year is Honda, down 39.5%, and then the second biggest loser is Jaguar, down 22.6%. But zooming out to look at overall market share by manufacturer so far this year, VW up at 26%, Stellantis sits at 19.2%, and Renault in third at 10.9%. And again, Tesla is still down at only 2.3% of the overall auto market in the EU so far for January to April this year. So yeah, things are going very well. The growth rate is right where you'd want it to be, but we're still in the very early innings. For the month of April, full BEVs made up 11.8% of the overall market. Most of you guys know me as the Tesla or Electrified guy. It's that way to some degree with family and friends, but with them, I'm even more so the fitness and performance guy. You may not be able to tell as I've been pushed off track as of late, but I'm hoping to be parasite free by this summer, and then I should be feeling like my normal self. Training has always been something I've thoroughly enjoyed, a way to challenge myself mentally and physically, and to get in the zone and push the boundaries of what I can do. Yes, always do what you can to get your nutrition from whole, unprocessed foods sourced well to recover. But I'm telling you, having been around the fitness industry, even this sometimes is not enough. And can you really say you eat a perfectly balanced diet every day? I can't, and that's why AG1 has been a part of my life for years now. AG1 is the sponsor of this video, and honestly, I'd gladly recommend them even if they weren't. Lex Friedman got me on board, and seeing Huberman involved with AG1 certainly doesn't hurt. With AG1, pretty simply, you're planting good seeds daily, ensuring a baseline of nutrition with 75 vitamins, minerals, and probiotics. It's independently certified, ensuring you won't get scammed, which I've seen firsthand happen frequently in the supplement world. It's quick and easy, and living in a cold, dreary climate like myself, AG1's vitamin D3 K2 is absolutely essential. If you can swing it, it's at least worth a shot to see what you think, and yes, it's a great way to support the work I do here. So if you use my link, you can get 5 travel packs and a 1-year supply of that vitamin D3 K2 for free. The link is in the description below. We have Tesla Taiwan rubbing it in that they now get the Quicksilver Model Y. And as Troy highlighted, the first 2 months of Model Y sales in Taiwan were both higher than any previous month of Model 3 sales. The Model 3's best month was 2.4 thousand, and you can see the Model Y has bested that in the first 2 months. Of course, you're going to have some pent-up demand, but it looks like some of that will be cannibalizing the Model 3 sales, which makes sense. As Troy highlighted, Taiwan and Israel are Giga Berlin's 2 main export destinations. There's some chatter out there about this whole Epstein Elon Musk situation. We just have the US Virgin Islands now serving a subpoena to Elon, essentially asking for documents, anything related to Epstein and JP Morgan, as the island is suing JP Morgan. Elon's alleged involvement is that there's some suspicion that Epstein may have referred or tried to refer Elon to become a client of JP Morgan. Ultimately though, I think this will be a nothing burger. I'm not going to read you these bullet points that Elon tweeted about a few days ago, but go ahead and pause and read them if you missed the tweet. Actually, this one's making me chuckle from Elon. The notion that I would need or listen to financial advice from a dumb crook is absurd. If anybody thought the Optimus videos were CGI, Elon said all real and hot off the presses. Tesla Optimus team cranked super hard through the weekend to get it done. They are awesome. And added, Optimus team is making excellent progress. You may have seen that the $2 million plus Rimac Navira broke over 20 different acceleration and braking records. One was a 0 to 60 time of 1.74 seconds. If you're not familiar, yes, this is an electric vehicle. But what I wanted to highlight here is what Elon said about it. Tesla Economics asked, will the Tesla Roadster be able to beat this new record? Elon just said LOL. It sounds like the upcoming Roadster, potentially with that SpaceX package, should be able to get under 1.74 seconds 0 to 60, which is just absurd. Keep in mind, you can buy about 20 Model S Plaid vehicles for the price of one Rimac Navira, and it does 1.990 to 60, which is not bad. We get another update on Tesla in India. There are discussions with officials about incentives being offered in India for car and battery manufacturing for Tesla. Tesla is still testing the waters and trying to understand the local policies. Recent talks have touched on India's taxes on imported cars, but have mainly centered on how Tesla could make use of a government scheme. This scheme would include certain cashback incentives for selling and exporting locally made vehicles and parts. And again, they're also talking about battery production as well. An official said it appears Tesla has come with a different heart and head this time, and that Tesla can negotiate on things like taxes better if it first sets up a plant. As we know, there's been back and forth between Tesla and India for years. For a time, Tesla seemed to walk away from the table, but it sounds like they're back, so we'll see. You guys know I think these brand, watch, and shopping consideration reports are kind of silly, but I'll pass along the data anyway. In the first quarter of this year, about 75% of luxury vehicle shoppers were considering an SUV. This was a new record high. In the first quarter, with 73% of luxury shoppers considering an SUV, that's up from 68% last year, and you can see the same thing happening but to the downside for luxury cars, actually down 5 or 6 percentage points from last year. If you don't have any context, usually these can move 1, 2, maybe 3 percentage points, but 5 to 6 in a quarter is definitely a significant move. Only 2 models in the top 10 luxury models considered were actual cars. We have the BMW X5 and then the 5 Series. The Model Y, of course an SUV, came in the 10th spot, so this is a pretty good argument for people that are trying to say Tesla should advertise. And yeah, plenty of families just need more size than a Model Y can offer, but I think part of the reason the Model Y is still down at number 10 is just a lack of awareness of the benefits of Tesla and that vehicle. And these results are still kind of confounding because we know that Tesla was the best-selling luxury brand in quarter 1 in the US, and they only had about 9% of the quarterly brand consideration. When it comes to safety, the second most important factor for these luxury shoppers, Tesla is not even in the top 3. And yes, these brand watch reports are consumer perception surveys. So again, for the advertising camp, hopefully it will fix the consumer perception and bring it more in line with reality, especially for Tesla safety. Geely has just announced that it increased its holding in Aston Martin, essentially doubling its investment position up to 17%. Geely now the 3rd largest shareholder in Aston Martin. Definitely something to watch because Geely has done really well as the parent company of Volvo, Polestar, now Zeekr, and they're making big waves in the EV space. And we've already heard that Aston Martin plans to build 2 upcoming EVs in the UK by 2025, a sports car and an SUV. Shout out to EV Knowledge on Twitter. We now have the first United States-Canada electric vehicle corridor. This roadway will stretch from Kalamazoo, Michigan to Quebec City, Quebec, and it'll have DC fast chargers every 50 miles. Also, Canada and the United States have built the world's largest market-based energy trading relationship. So, relations between the United States and Canada, specifically for the supply chain and raw materials for the EV sector, not trivial. This corridor will carry the flow of EV traffic, trade, and manufacturing between the US and Canada. So add this to the list of things you love to see. I'll be very curious to see if Ford stands its ground on this one, but they just had a price hike for the Blue Cruise system for Mach-E owners. Now, customers buying a new Mach-E will have the option to include Blue Cruise at the time of purchase for $2,100. That's for a 3-year subscription period. Previously, owners were paying about $200 per year. Now it works out to about $700 per year. And a slightly different rate for existing Mach-E owners. The renewal cost for Blue Cruise will be $75 per month, or they can pay $800 per year at the time of renewal. Blue Cruise is of course still very limited on where you can actually use this feature, and in a Ford forum, apparently plenty of people were very upset with 30 pages of responses and many people expecting the take rate to drop to 0. Now, of course, you're going to have a knee-jerk reaction from customers being upset and using some hyperbole, but at the end of the day, if the take rates really do start to drop significantly, I won't be surprised if Ford again cuts the price. So I'm not someone who has become obsessed with AI. I definitely play around and I'm watching and experimenting a little bit here and there, but as far as looking for companies to invest in, personally, I feel like Tesla is one of those companies where I already have some AI exposure. So far, it seems like the market doesn't really agree with me, but honestly, that's the way I like it. And I would just say, well, let's talk again in another 5 or so years and see what's what. Don't forget, check out AG1 links below, get your freebies if you're interested. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.